Hello, this is Kurt from Grand Purpose Piano. We're just putting the dampers onto the Steinway D. Um, we put a whole new set, even though the piano is from 1988. We're redoing the pin block and restringing it and doing all that work. Whenever you restring a piano, you really should never keep the old dampers. You know, everything's going to line up differently. The grooves that have been in the strings prior to that have already, kind of gotten used to it. So now what you want to do is you want to just scrape off all of the old dampers and go ahead, and we get our dampers directly from Steinway. And here's the nice box. Steinway makes great, they just have great dampers. So, and it's specific for the piano. I don't know if you could read that, but it says that style D. So this is the Steinway D dampers. They're pre-cut, and you can see I have them all laid out on the table here. So what I like to do is I want to make sure that when you're putting on the dampers, you need to make sure that you put them on the right way, or else the strings won't dampen. So anyway, so that's what I'm doing right now. It's a nice relaxing thing. Normally I'll have the radio going, but for some reason I can't get my phone going and the radio at the same time. So so right now I'm just going to show this to you in silence. It's very relaxing. Dampers is a quiet day. Doing dampers is just, this is, if I had a cup of coffee, I'd love to have a cup of coffee right now. Just kind of sit here, have my coffee, and put my dampers on. It's nice to get relaxing parts of the field. Regulating is very relaxing, where you can just sit there and reestablish all the different parts, regulate. Dampers are fun. What's another part of? Actually, it's all fun. Just some of it's a little bit more relaxing than other parts. So I line up my dampers outside of the piano. You can see that I'm gluing my dampers this way on the bench. This way what I get to do is I get to make sure that everything's nice and even, that the dampers are centered on the damper head. And then I go ahead, I take my knife, especially on the tries, and I go ahead and I'll go right through the center of it all to line it up to make sure that everything is centered. Alright, this way when you get to put them back in the piano, everything will look nice, it'll have a nice look, and they'll all be centered. Now, if the strings aren't dampening, that's when you go ahead and you have to know how to regulate your dampers. And regulating dampers is an art. You know, it's something which, if the dampers all lift exactly at the same time, people can do what they call half pedaling. Damper regulation is very important. Also, bending the damper wire, knowing how to bend the damper wire itself, is a very important part of damper regulating. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. Just kind of going through the process. Now you can see on the table here, this section, I'm going to move the camera, I have my dampers laid out. You can see that I have them laid out over here. I have my tricords. These are dampers that have a slit down the center. I have two of them. It'll go in the front and the back of the damper. Let me pull one down that I have. And you know, on the longer length strings, you want to make sure that you're going to be getting good dampening. So I double up on my tricords in this lower section. And then as it goes up and the string lengths become less, then you could start to incorporate the flats with the tricords. Up in the very last section of the piano, which I've already done, they're all flats. So there are no tricord felt in this section. These are all just flats. All right, because the strings are small, shorter, and they dampen easier. Not so much of a problem there. All right. Let me just get them set. So I'll just keep recording for a few minutes and get myself some footage. You know, we take for granted a lot of different parts of the field. You know, some of them, just because they're simple, it's neglected as something which is not very important. Damper regulation and damper proper properly putting dampers on is extremely important. Um, it will make or break a piano. There's nothing worse than having a piano that you play a note and the note continues to ring even after you've stopped playing it. I have people that complain about that, and it's a shame. And they get, you know, the problem is that their dampers weren't installed properly. So what I have to do is I go ahead and I redo their dampers, give them all new dampers, or correct the ones that are not working properly. On older pianos, the damper felts get hard because they do collect a lot of moisture. And once they start to get a crust on them, when it comes down and makes contact with the string, you get like a zinging sound. And that's a problem. And then those dampers have to be replaced as well. Alright, so like I said, I'm taking the knife here that I have, and I'm centering the tri-chord felt so that it's directly centered on the damper heads. Alright, this way when I get all done, it'll look real nice. It'll all be centered. And that's there's an aesthetic look to it, and then there's also a practical use. So you want to make sure that it's going to have a pretty look. This is a beautiful Steinway D. This is worth all my attention. This is worth me taking my time, doing a good job. I just can't even imagine the people that are going to be performing on this piano over the next years. So I want to make sure, for my sake, for Grand Purpose, that we go ahead and we do the very best job that we can. I love what I do. It's a great field. It's a lot of fun. It's crafty, and I get to do woodworking. I get to do a lot of different things, and it's always different. Every piano's different, and every piano has different potential. And it's fun to explore that and to try to get the most amount out of an instrument. So I really enjoy the field. And I study. You know, I'm able to go to different Piano Technicians Guild meetings where I get to learn from other technicians that have experience. And it's just a great way of learning. It's a great way of staying encouraged to stay in the field, you know, because it's not always easy. You know, we go through economy changes, and you know, there's things that happen in our field. You know, when the economy goes bad, it's hard for everybody. The first things that kind of go are the luxury items. The piano is one of them. But you know what? People love music, and they're always going to take care. There's always going to be those that want to take care of their instrument, and I thank God for them. Alright, so I'm just going to continue doing these dampers, and I'm going to stop in a minute. Just want to make sure I get enough footage. I like taking these videos. I like to be able to share this with people. I know that I wished I would have had something like this when I was younger, where people would have shared some information and their techniques with me.